Greetings, teachers. This is Mr. Harry from Harry Kindergarten Music, and I'm going to be sharing with you the 3 big values that keep my kindergarten class safe and happy. Here are a few quick things you might notice right from the get-go as we examine my list of 3 values. First, you'll notice that I'm calling our 3 classroom rules values as opposed to just calling them rules. My philosophy is that the word rules has a bit more of a punitive vibe to it, and the word values focuses more on the positive. So rules often tell students this is what you cannot do. And you know kids, right? Children will find a way to get as close as they can to the boundary line without going over. So I'm not trying to just identify 3 things we cannot do in school. This is often the route that rules take us. For our class, values are the things that are important to us. Values are who we are. Now, quick disclaimer, if you have rules in your classroom and you call them rules, there's certainly no judgment here. This is just a nuance that is helpful for me in my room. Second, you'll notice that there are only 3 values, so we're not coming up with 5 or 6 things that kids need to memorize. This list is purposefully kept short so that students will remember it and take ownership of the ones they know. And lastly, our 3 big values drive all of the other what-if scenarios that might happen in my classroom setting. In other words, all of those little behaviors and hypothetical situations that might happen, like running, and touching others, and interrupting the speaker when they're talking, all of these small behaviors can ultimately be brought back to your 3 core values. Hey, speaking of which, let's look at what they actually are. What are the 3 big values in my classroom? Value number 1, we are respectful. Value number 2, we are safe. And value number 3, we do our best. So this leads to a very obvious follow-up question. How am I going to teach these 3 values at the beginning of the school year? I actually like to work at this backwards since students are used to talking about behaviors and don't necessarily know what values are without a teacher explaining it first. So at our school, we gather all of the kindergarten classes together on the first day, and we begin to talk about behaviors that students think that they should do when they are in kindergarten. Now, 5-year-olds are often used to hearing preschool teachers talk about rules, the don'ts of school. Don't run, don't punch anyone, don't yell out the answer, don't kick your friend. What we want students to start with are naming behaviors that are stating what they should do. So, for example, instead of don't run, I want a student to say something like walk in school. Now, once students name a bunch of wanted or positive behaviors, then it's my job to show them that we could actually group all those behaviors into one single value that sums up the heart of what is important to us. So I might say something like, boys and girls, what I'm hearing you say is that you think we should be nice to others. We should give others a turn to speak and to be heard, and you think we should use polite words. You know what, guys? All of these behaviors show me something in your heart that you value. You value respect. Let's make our first value, we are respectful. In this way, I'm also letting kids feel like they are the ones creating this values list, even though I already have it pre-made and I kind of know where it's going. I could do the same thing with other named behaviors. Boys and girls, you told me that we keep our hands and feet to ourselves. You told me we walk in school. You tell me that we should stay in our own space. These are all behaviors that show me you value being safe. Let's make our second value, we are safe. Now, once they start to get the hang of what a value is, I'm ready to actually flip the switch on them and just tell them my third value. Boys and girls, I've got a great third value for you. We do our best. Can you think of some behaviors that you might demonstrate in school if you value always doing your best? And naturally, they're going to say things like never give up. Maybe they want to say always remember to write your name on your paper, participate in games, have a good attitude if you lose, stuff like that. Now we've got our list of 3 big values. Wouldn't it be nice if you had some resources to use when you were teaching these 3 big values to your class? Well, I've got your back. Here are 3 great resources to help you introduce the 3 big values. Resource number 1. I have JPEG images of values 1, 2, and 3 that you can use for free when you introduce and refer to the three big values. Just check the description area of this video and you can find a link to download signage that you can use for a bulletin board, or if you want to insert it into a PowerPoint, or however you'd like to use those JPEG images. Resource number 2, and this is a resource you might have. Do you have any puppets in your classroom? Take one of your classroom puppets and brand them as the manners inspector, the character education puppet, right? So when you're introducing the three big values, have your puppet help you. Students are always excited to take a break from listening to our teacher voice and to hear the voice of their favorite puppet. So let them do some of the explaining as to how the values work. Or if you'd like a little help in that department, there is another link in the description of this video that's going to link you to a video I already made with my Manners Inspector puppet. And in this video, my puppet reviews the three big values and shares very specific examples of each of them. So you're welcome to use this video in your classroom for free. Please don't share it publicly online, because this is literally a random puppet from my classroom collection. It's not a puppet that I own the rights to, created myself. I'm just looking to bless y'all with what I came up with. So be blessed. If you want to use it, just please don't share it out other places. Just use it in your classroom. And finally, resource number 3, I've got an entire Harry Kindergarten music video called Our Three Big Values on my YouTube page right now. This song introduces the three big values I've talked about in this video, but also gives very specific examples of each one in the verses. So you can find this link in the description as well. And while I know you'll want to use this on the day you introduce your values, this is the type of song you can return back to over and over again. It's catchy, and I definitely find my students singing the chorus at recess or when they're walking in the classroom or other random times. This is a great song for kids to have stuck in their head. Well, I hope this gets your classroom started off in the right direction, and I'm going to end this video with just a few helpful tips to use once you've started into the heart of the school year. Tip number 1, reward students for demonstrating the three big values. I've got a token economy that I use to reward students for positive behaviors in my class, but even if you don't have a token economy, positive verbal praise is always beneficial to reinforce those things you want to see your students do on a daily basis. Make a big deal of a student when they demonstrate the classroom values, and make an even bigger deal when they point out one of their classmates using the values. Tip number 2, be a role model. So if you want your students to live by these three big values, you have to demonstrate that as the teacher too. If you want students to be respectful, you need to be respectful in your interactions with them and with your teacher colleagues in the hall and with your principal and with their parents. If they're supposed to be safe in their values, you demonstrate safety as the teacher. If they're supposed to do their best, you have to come to school with a good attitude too, even if you had a really long weekend and you hate Mondays, right? Be a role model. And tip number 3, refer to the big values all year. This is not a one and done thing. This is not, hey, let's introduce this on day 1 and then we don't talk about it again kind of thing. Make sure to reference your values and lace conversations about them throughout every day of your school year, and use those resources I gave you as a reinforcement. All right, folks, this has been another episode of Teacher Tips with Harry Kindergarten. I hope this has been valuable for you, the teacher. Have a great school year.